Photoshop are quite easy to make actually. So this is a really nice introduction to animation in a very sort of limited format, but still with room to experiment. So Photoshop has a small amount of animation sort of ability. There are some videos on the NCD Graphics YouTube channel that go over this, but I just want to show you sort of in depth so that you can get started. So I'll just point you to the ones that are already on the YouTube channel. So they're under advanced, and I think there's 2 or 3 on there. If I go to the playlist. So there's one here, which is sort of a stop motion effect one, and there's another one with a little skull somewhere. Yeah, so animated GIFs. So both of those use the 2 stop motion ones, and the one about GIFs are using that sort of animation function in Photoshop. So you can watch those if you want a bit more information, but hopefully I should cover all of it. So you want to work with sort of flat images, shapes, text, etc. And GIFs tend to be sort of like a stop-start or a flash on and off. So it tends to be, rather than complicated motion, you could do some elements of motion, but it doesn't tend to be long scenes of anything. It tends to be just this, that, this, that. So a bit like stop motion, sort of like small steps. So I've got a document here where I've got lots of image edits that I've been working on, and particularly I've got these 2 sort of coloured image edits, and I want to create something that's a little bit glitchy, so I want it to sort of glitch between these 2. So I've screenshotted these. Now, my advice would be not to make a GIF sort of in a large file like this. This is an A4 document or an A3 document. Obviously it's got these very large, high quality images in it, and GIFs tend to work better with small scales, small file sizes. They don't work well at large sizes. So what I'm actually going to advise is that you find your screenshots and work from those directly. So I've got 2 screenshots here, so I'm just going to right click one, open with, and choose Photoshop. So that's going to open it at that size. Now this is a much better size to be working with. You can see when I zoom in it goes a bit blurry, so we don't tend to use GIFs at a very large scale anyway. So we kind of want to be working in this smaller zone. I'm also going to drag in my other screenshot. Now, GIFs work via layers, so you want to have a layer for everything that you want to happen. So if I want it to flash between those 2 and do that, then that's fine because I've got those 2. You can see that one moves ever so slightly when I click between those. So I made it a bit worse. There we go. So now it doesn't move. Or maybe it still does. What I could do is if I duplicate those and then have that one applied over the top in some sort of funky, see there? And then if I move it, then we start to get this funky glitch effect. So I could have that going on. I could do it again and have it going in a different direction, so the same thing, but going like that. So we've got a couple of things there that we can sort of get started with, but at the moment they're not actually animating. So I've got all of the layers there, but they're not doing anything yet. So that's where we need to go to our window up here, and we need to go to timeline. Now what we want to do is we want it to say create frame animation. It might say create video timeline, so you need to make sure that it says create frame animation, so you can select that there, and then you just click that button and you can see it drops a frame in here. Now underneath it will tell us how long that frame will be in the GIF for, and you can see that we've got it looping forever, which is what we want. So we want it to just loop and play constantly. Now at the moment, in that frame, whatever is happening is whatever is showing on my screen. So at the moment I just want it to show that one. If I then add a new frame, I can then get it to show that one, and you can see that changes there. So if I play that now, obviously they're on 0 seconds. So if I set that to like 0.5 or something and then play it again, you can see it flicks between the 2. So then if I wanted to add a new frame, and then I could have this showing, you can see what happens. So it's basically going through your layers and showing whatever it is that you want to happen. So you want to make a frame and then add your next piece of sort of animation in there. And then keep playing it to see what it does and see if it does what you want it to. Now you can select all of these by holding shift, so you can change the time of them all at once. So I might make it a lot faster so that it sort of does this glitchy thing. I could if I go back to my first layer, I could always duplicate this layer, show it. Now you can see if I click show on there, it does tend to apply it to all of them. So you've got to be really careful what is showing and when. But then I could take this image and I could start to use my tool here to draw some selections. See if I'm going for a very glitchy effect, I could do that. And then I could move those selections. If I rasterize it first. So you can see I've now got a glitchy image. To hide all my other layers, you can see that that's sort of the image we've got going on. So then we're starting to get this sort of glitchy image. So if I hide that and then go to my fourth layer and show that, and then I play that again, and then I'm going to duplicate that layer, I'm going to make a new frame, and again just going through and making sure you know what's showing on each layer. We don't want that top layer showing all the time. We do want it showing at that point, and then we do want it showing at that point, and we're just going to scooch it that way. So you can see we're starting to get some sort of glitchy effects going on. I could start to add text to this, so I could add a new frame in here, and then I could add a new layer on top, and I could add some text. So if I type glitch, I'll make it fairly big. Now there's several things I could do with the text. So I could have that, you can see it's on all frames at the moment. So if I go to here, it's there at the moment. I could have it hidden, and then it could appear, and then it could be hidden again, and then it could appear again, but it could be somewhere else, so I could move it at that point, and then it could be hidden, and then it could appear again, and again I could move it so that it's somewhere else. So if I then play that now, we start to get this much more interesting sort of glitch effect. I could do some things where I set the blend mode on that so that we get some interesting stuff going on. So something like that. So maybe it's, if I undo that, maybe if I have it showing there on that setting. So it's really just about trial and error, seeing what you like the look of, seeing what works, but making sure you know which frame you're working on and what is showing on that frame. So you really just want to use your eye tool to hide things and show things. You can obviously move things. So if I wanted that word glitch to sort of come down the screen or something, I could go to there and I could move it, go to there and move it, go to there and move it. Now obviously it's not going to be perfect because I've not lined it up very well, but you know, again, it's just about trialing and error. Now I find it easier to copy and paste these each time, so then I can line them up first. So you can see that's probably going to look a bit weird. If I'd got that copied and pasted each time, I could do that, and then I could line it up, and then I could just show. So if I just want that one showing, what I'd have to do is I'd have to delete all of these, I think. So if I start with it there, go to my next layer, copy and paste, put it there, go to my next layer, copy and paste. So it is just about getting used to it, getting it how you want it. You really want lots of layers going on, so you want lots, every time you want something new to happen, it wants to be on its own layer, ideally. And that will make your life a lot easier. So you can see I can then go through and hide those, and then I can gradually bring them back in. Now obviously if you wanted it to actually move down the page, you would hide them as you go. So you can see now that I've got that going like that, but I could have it go like that, then like that, then like that, etc. And again, I could change how long this is on or how fast it is, and that will change the effect of it. So if I play that now, you can see it looks as though it's moving down the page. We can also do this little icon here. So this is called tween, and what that does is it sort of softens everything that's going on. So you can see it will then add stuff happening, so it stretches it out for you. So if I play that now, you can see it actually sort of fades it in between. Now I've not done it for the whole thing, so it doesn't do it all the way. So if I undo that and I select the whole lot and I do tween, you can see you get some sort of faded effect. It's a difficult one to work with, but it's just trial and error really. So things like text, things like your image flashing on and off, things like elements moving, you could have things getting more and more distorted. So like we sort of did with this layer here, you could take those, you could copy and paste that and distort it even further and then distort it even more. Yeah, play around. You could add shapes, you could have, you know, lines appearing or coming over, or parts of the image moving. You know, you could take parts of an image out and get rid of them or whatever. But it should be very sort of like quick things, so it should just be movement or appearing. It's very difficult to do things fading on GIFs just because it is such a step-by-step thing, and things don't tend to fade in very well, so it tends to be sort of quite jolty movements. So work with that, see what you can do with that, see what kind of things you like the look of, and just play around with it really and see what you can get. So once you've got something you're happy with, so let's say I'm happy with that. I'm actually just going to do a couple of bits and bobs to that to get it to look a little bit more glitchy. Like that. Put some extra bits on there. So say I'm happy with that. That does what I want it to. Obviously it doesn't, but what I would then do is I'd go to File. Obviously you want to save this as a Photoshop file first. So you'd want to save this as like GIF1 or something. And then so that you can go back and edit that GIF later on. But to actually turn it into a final GIF, you want to go to Export and then Save for Web. Now, when you get to this bit, it should be at the top here, it say Optimized. We want this to be adaptive, not selective, so make sure it's ticked on adaptive. And then mine's got 128 colours, but really you want to go about 64. What that does is it just simplifies it down and it takes some of the information out, and it just makes it a lot easier to animate and a lot faster, and it changes the file size a bit. So 64 is a good number to go for. After that, that should be everything, so you can just go save. You can see it's in an image format, so I'm just going to call that GIF test. Save it there. Now, Mac does this strange thing where it saves your GIFs as images. So you can see when I open that in preview, it will give me it as a set of images, which isn't very useful. But when I actually place that somewhere, so let's say I place it onto something like Google Slides, it will actually play as a GIF. So there you go, so you can see it plays as a GIF. You can make these bigger, and you can see we've not lost too much quality there, so that's working quite nicely. So that's it basically. So working in Photoshop, making sure you've got lots of layers going on, and then using the eye tool to sort of hide those layers. If you want something to move or change, my advice would be to copy and paste it first so it's a separate layer, so that all you're doing is hiding and showing things on different layers. It starts to get quite complicated otherwise. If you don't do it that way, and you might have to like start your document again just to actually get it all sorted out. Go to File, Export and Save for Web. And that's the basics of it. So you can do as much as you want with this. Watch those YouTube videos if you want to see other options for working with GIFs. But this is a really nice way to get started just in basic animation.